Actually, I need to change this. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Change that Instagram angle for y'all. Okay, that's better. All right. Okay, good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me know. Hey, there you go. Let me know if you can hear me. I see we got one early riser. Good morning. My hair is at a interesting length. Not quite long enough, not quite short enough. What's up? What's up? If you're watching, hey, there we go. All right, I see you now. Good morning. Good morning. Give it a couple minutes. We got the early warm up. It's 3:01 a.m. Today is Monday, August 24th, and we are officially live for today's edition of the 3 a.m. Club. If you're watching on Instagram, do me a favor, drop a note in the comment, say what's up, say good morning, let me know what you're doing. If you're watching on Facebook, drop me a note, let me know what you're doing. Okay, we got some people who haven't been to bed yet. We got some people like myself who have had a decent night of sleep for a couple hours, and now we up and at 'em. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Give it just another minute or two and we'll get started. I've been cutting down the wait time, the start time, the grace period. I used to do like 4 or 5 minutes and then down to 4. Now we're down to like 3 minutes, right? Got to be on time and got to respect the time of the people who have logged on. So we might get down to 2 minutes. We might get down to 1. I don't know. We'll see. But nonetheless. All right. Let me make sure I can see myself. All right. Perfect. Yeah, Facebook is funny. It never gives you an accurate count of how many people are actually watching. So by the time I'm finished with this thing, it'll show 40 people watched it, 50 people watched it immediately after I finish. But while I'm actually doing it, the count is never that accurate. It's never close. All right. So it's 3:03 a.m. Let's get started. All right, welcome to another edition of the 3 a.m. Club. Today is Monday, August 24th. The time is officially now 3:04 a.m. and we have made it to another edition. This is where we meet up every Monday at 3 a.m. to try to get our week started off on a positive note, to try to get the week started off in the right frame of mind, and really just to kind of dig in deeper and make that sacrifice of being disciplined. Now, some people, it might be the discipline of getting up early, depending on what your situation is. In the case of some of our watchers tonight, it might be the discipline of staying up to actually get some work done. Whatever you have to do to put yourself in position to have that competitive advantage. And that competitive advantage is ultimately you competing against yourself. But in order for you to get ahead, sometimes you got to put in that extra work. And there's just really no other way around it. And depending on what your schedule is, sometimes the only way to get in position to be able to do that extra work is either you got to get up early or you got to stay up later. And so, we are comfortable with making those sacrifices and rising to the challenge and doing what we need to do in order to progress and to elevate and to put ourselves in position to accomplish, our goals and our dreams and whatever the case may be. So anyway, today I kind of wanted to talk about, I've been thinking about how to frame this, and when the thought initially came to me, the thought was I was thinking about the second mile phenomenon, and I'll try to talk through this and see if it comes out. But the second mile phenomenon. I'm a runner. If you follow me, if you know me, you know one of the things I like to do is I like to run. And when I was running last week, I was I've been doing a lot shorter mileage than I have in the past, but I'm doing a much different type of training. Nonetheless, I was on a 3 mile. It was either a 3 mile run or it was a 25-minute run, one of the two. But either way, they kind of equate to about the same thing. It's just the different levels of intensity. But anyway, I was on this 3 mile run, and as I was finishing up really strong. And if you're not a runner, when we talk about finishing up strong, we're talking about, you know, how did you finish the last minute of that run? How did you finish the last 30 seconds of that run? How did you finish the last, 100 meters of that run? Or how did you finish the last half a mile of that run, depending on how long you're running. In this case, I say it was about half a mile that I really, really was starting to pump it as I was finishing that last half mile. And depending on how fast you go, how slow you go, it can make a big difference in your overall time. Well, I was finishing strong. I mean, running, got the breath going in the nose, out the mouth. I'm moving my arms. I'm pounding the pavement. I feel really good. And as I was finishing, I was really thinking about how amazing it is that you have this second and third and fourth mile phenomenon where literally your time tends, depending on how long your run is, it depends on a lot of things, but typically your second mile time is faster than your first, right? And your third mile time is faster than your second or faster than your first. And from a pure logic standpoint, you would kind of think that your first mile is going to be the fastest mile. If you're running multiple mileages, you're running 2 miles, you're running 3 miles, or and you can really stretch this idea out over 10 miles, 15 miles, 20 miles. I'll talk about that in a second, but it's just this phenomenon that you think, okay, I'm going to have more energy. When I first start out, I want to feel better when I first start out, and over time, I want to become more tired. Well, that does happen, right? You do get tired. You do lose some energy, but there's an interesting thing that happens, when you actually start your race and you actually start running. And when I say start your race and you start running, this is a parallel for life. It's a parallel for entrepreneurship. It's a parallel for anything that you do. Even if you're not a runner, we're all in motion, right? Everybody's walking. Walking is just a slower pace of running, of movement. But metaphorically speaking, parallel speaking, when you actually start something and you give yourself the opportunity to warm up, you give your body the opportunity to warm up, you give your mind the opportunity to warm up, you give your muscles the opportunity to warm up, right? You give your lungs the opportunity to warm up, you give your heart the opportunity to warm up, and you actually continue along in that journey beyond that initial first mile. Because in reverse, actually, a lot of times that first mile is the most difficult. Even if you've warmed up, because your body is stiffer, because your body has been in this state of comfortableness, or has been in this state of lethargy, in a sense, when it comes to just the every moment motion, as opposed to being in this heightened state of awareness and this heightened state of being. And so a lot of times when you're running that first mile, if you aren't focused and you start thinking about how far you have to go, man, I'm on this 3 mile run, or I'm on this 5 mile run, or even I'm on this 1 mile run, and you start thinking about how long of a distance or how long of a time it's going to take you and what type of effort it's going to take, a lot of times you can start to get discouraged within that first mile, and it begins to mess up the entire run. And so when you're starting out, you really have to focus and fight through that first mile. And before you know it, you actually surprise yourself by the second mile and the third mile. And you don't always know it, right? You don't always necessarily feel it, because a lot of times, the nuances of the mileage kind of feels the same, especially when you start battling the mental challenges of staying focused, of fighting through the terrain, of fighting through the pain, of fighting through all the distractions. A lot of times your mind really gets to a state where you're trying to find that level of focus, so you aren't being distracted by all of the other things that could be distracting you, like the pain in your ankle, or the pain in your knee, or the pain in your toe, whatever the case may be, with your situation. Uh, but being so when you're focused on that type of stuff, you kind of forget about the pace, and you kind of forget about how fast you're going. But when you actually finish the race, when you actually finish the run, when you actually finish the challenge, and you look back and you look at your results, you look at your times, you look at your pace, you look at the factual data of, okay, how fast did I run this mile? How fast did I run that mile? A lot of times you'll see that second mile is a lot faster than the first. That third mile is a lot faster than the second. And let's say we stretch this out over something like 10 miles. It's not uncommon for your seventh, your eighth, and your ninth mile to be faster than the first mile, to be faster than the second mile, at a time when you're supposed to be a lot more tired, right? You're supposed to be exhausted. You're supposed to be spent. You actually tend to find your second win. You find your third win. If only you can challenge yourself to stay focused and to fight through the pain and the discomfort and the mental challenges that are constantly bombarding you, especially as the distance goes on, because now you're being distracted by everything. Your body's like, yo, we don't want to do this anymore. Your mind is like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm ready to quit, right? When your heart is beating at 180, it's not RPMs, I can't think of it, beats per minute. But when your heart rate is going 170, 175, 180, 190, beats per second, or minute, you really don't feel like running anymore. I find that parallel is very similar to you taking on any type of challenge in life, exhaustion, any type of challenge in life, any type of project, especially when we're talking about the journey of entrepreneurship. And I was thinking about this morning as I was getting ready. Like, if you think about most people's career, right? Most people's career, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're working for somebody, most people's working career is going to span 20 years. It's going to span 25 years. It's going to span 30 years, right? When you think about how long a marathon is 26.2 miles, right? So if my working career is 20, 25, or 30 years, it literally is a parallel of running a marathon. And when you're running a marathon, when you're running 5 miles, when you're running 10 miles, yes, you have the second mile phenomenon, where that second mile and that third mile is going to be faster than the previous mile. But you also have miles where literally your time is going to be exactly the same. Like your fourth and fifth and sixth mile, the time might actually be exactly the same, with a difference of a matter of just a few seconds. Sometimes that middle mileage is going to be slower than the first mile. It's going to be slower than the second mile. It's going to be slower than the third mile, because you're going through the nuances of altering your pace, of catching your breath, right? From some of those more difficult miles, from some of the hills that you had to go up, right? From some of that rough terrain that you had to run across, from you calming down and finding that peace, that center, and getting your breath, your breathing under control, right? Some of those miles are going to be slower. They're going to be exactly the same. Similar to how your journey in life, your journey with entrepreneurship, your journey with your grind and your elevation, they're going to be years where you may not feel like you've made progress, right? There are going to be years where you feel like you've made a ton of progress. There are going to be years where you've had an explosion, and there are going to be years where you feel like, man, I feel like I'm just starting over, right? Like I've been at this thing for 5 miles, for 10 miles, and I feel worse now than I did during the first mile. So there are a lot of parallels between, you know, that running, that marathon, and your career, your experience as an entrepreneur. But the beauty about it, right? The beauty about it, and I was reminded of this this weekend. I've been you know, really taking my training a lot more serious, and in the midst of that training, there have been some weeks where it's been extremely tough. I did not feel like working out. I had not had the sleep that I normally get. Sometimes I didn't even eat, you know, properly, not properly, but I didn't eat enough, you know, for the day to have the level of intensity of workout, you know, that I was scheduled to have. But no matter what, I kept going. I went out, I got the workouts done, and I really started to focus on, sometimes it's not always about the performance, it's more about the actual execution and completion of the workout itself, right? Actually getting it done. Getting something done is better than not doing it at all. And during the midst of me having those difficult workouts, me having some of those difficult runs where my times weren't as fast as I would have, you know, preferred or actually wanted, in my mind, I'm thinking, man, I don't, you know, I'm not making the progress that I should be making because of this and because of that. I should be running a faster time. But when I actually did my fitness test, right? I just did a fitness test yesterday, and my times have dropped. My overall times in the course of the last month, right? Even through the difficult challenges of some of those runs and some of those workouts and some of those miles, right, where I didn't feel like I was making progress, overall, from beginning to end, when I actually have the monthly test, my times have dropped significantly. My reps have increased significantly. My endurance has increased significantly. So even when you're running those miles where it's faster, it's slower, it's exactly the same, there is still progress being made, and it's the cumulative progress that you always have to keep in sight, right? Like, remember where you started and remember where you are now. And remember, there are some, right? The miles, the hills, the terrain. There's that classic picture of entrepreneurship, and I'll finish in just a second. But there's that classic picture of entrepreneurship where it shows two parallels, right? It shows the path that you know, that people think is going to be this straight shot, and then there's the picture below it where it shows like the reality, and it's this zigzag line where you're zigzagging all over the place until you get to your final destination. Entrepreneurship is not that much different from just everyday life. You may think that you're going to have this straight shot to your destination, and you're not. It's going to be this hilly terrain. It's going to be it's going to be gravel. It's going to be concrete. It's going to be grass. It's going to be mud. It's going to be hills. It's going to be uphills. It's going to be downslopes. It's going to be everything that you can imagine and everything that you may not have prepared for. But if you just keep going, you will increase your endurance. You will increase your mental toughness, right? We talked last week about mental toughness and developing the mental toughness of a Navy SEAL, right? And the principles that Navy SEALs use to increase their self-discipline and their mental toughness. If you just keep going, I promise you, you are making progress. I promise you, you are growing. I promise you, you are becoming stronger. So as you recognize that, and you start to see the increases in performance, you start to see the differences in who you've become, and you can start to see your path more clearly, then the ultimate destination starts to become a lot more clear, and it makes it a lot easier for you to continue to run those miles, the slow miles, the fast miles, and the miles that are just about the same. But remember, it's the marathon. You got to keep going. You can't stop until you hit 26.2. You can't stop. And then even then, when you hit 26.2, you got to be able to maintain and get back out there so that you can run another race. So I appreciate y'all for logging on today, the 3 a.m. Club. If you want to check out any of the other videos from the 3 a.m. Club, if you're watching on Instagram, I always post them on my IGTV, so they're definitely there. If you're watching on Facebook, you can check out the video section on my fan page. I also upload all the videos to YouTube. I've got some of the older videos that I got to upload, but still a lot of the newer videos I'd say over the last 2 months are definitely on YouTube. And as always, I appreciate you for logging on. I appreciate you for supporting the 3 a.m. Club and the movement. And I hope that you were able to get something valuable out of today's conversation and something that you can actually use as you motor through this week, as you take control over this week and you execute the things that you need to execute to continue to move your race along and to continue to accumulate those miles. So I love you. Peace. I'll see you later this week. Take care.